Our next keynote speaker is one of the world's leading translators of Islamic spirituality and mysticism. He's an associate professor of political science, international and Islamic studies at the Ateneo de Davao City University. He has a PhD in international relations from Tehran University and has translated numerous books and scientific articles from Middle Eastern languages into English. A writer and a speaker, educational manager and administrator, and a self-professed facilitator, he has many interests and hobbies, you may say, such as engaging in interreligious and peace building, Bangsamoro insider mediator, cultural heritage activist, financial literacy promoter, columnist, editor, and blogger, chess coach and trainer, and a real estate salesperson and publisher. As a multilingual speaker, he is a recipient of the 13th International Farabi Award in 2022 on Humanities and Islamic Studies. He translates books Persian into English and Filipino and English into Filipino on such subjects as international politics, history, political philosophy, interfaith and interfaith relations, preventing and countering violent extremism and interfaith relations, preventing and counter violent extremism, cultural heritage, Islamic finance, jurisprudence, scholastic theology, Quranic science, hadith ethics, and mysticism. He is a KAICIID International Dialogue Center Fellow and an alumnus of Klingendahl, Netherlands Institute of International Relations, on Negotiation and Mediation in Conflict Resolution. He is also a columnist in Meet the News online news magazine. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor to introduce to you our third keynote speaker, Dr. Mansoor Limba. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Limba.
Alaikum salam. Please give me your virtual thumbs up if I am audible enough. Okay, thank you. So let me share to you my screen first. Okay, so host disabled participant screen sharing. So I will share in the chat box, and then I would request the host to share it.
Pero okay, Kaka. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So let me.
Kindly share again, Dr. Limba. Kindly check.
Still disabled. Anyway, it's already attached in the chat box. Okay, so I can share the screen now. Again, please give me your virtual thumbs up if my screen is visible now.
It's visible, Dr. Limba.
Okay, so thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to all of you. Assalamu alaikum. May peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you all. Thank you, Dr. Brian, for the kind introduction. And I also need to thank the organizers for asking me to present earlier than the scheduled time for my presentation. At least I have some confidence now that I would look less as a plate or spoon or fork for that matter. So with that, our concern is peace and the environment at this point in time. Originally, this conference is supposed to be hybrid, but it turned out to be purely online, at least at this point in time, or for today. So according to Malacanang Memorandum Circular number 25 dated July 21st, work in government offices and classes in public schools at all levels in the National Capital Region are suspended in view of 1. The forecasted inclement weather brought by Typhoon Egay, and number 2, the scheduled 72-hour public transport strike in Metro Manila. So, this suspension of work in government offices as well as classes in all public schools at all levels is due to conflict in fare hike and climate. Double C, conflict and climate. And in other words, it has something to do with peace and the environment. You can also add to that, as a personal note, a week ago, I traveled from the marshland of Maguindanao coming here in the metro with the hope that I could present this topic in person, but due to the unpredictability not only of climate but also of the political climate that we have, it turned out to be online as it is now. When we talk about peace, yes, this is the main concern that we have for this Nemesio Prudente International Policy Research Conference. And along with that, we also deal with other areas such as education, health, gender and culture, youth, ethics and dialogue, and of course, the environment. So, here, we will deal with peace and the environment. And the assumption is that they are deeply rooted, and not only that, each serves as both independent and independent variable to the other. The same is true with the case of youth, health, and other topics that are covered in this international conference that we have. And the assumption is that when we talk about peace, it's not just the absence of war and conflict. Rather, we are told that we are referring to a state of harmony and cooperation between individuals, groups, and nations. And this includes respect for human rights, justice, and equality. And without these basic components, there can be no true peace, as we are told. The same is true when we talk about the environment. We are referring to it as something that encompasses all the natural systems and resources that sustain life on our Earth. This includes everything from forests and oceans to the atmosphere and the climate. It also includes respect. And without a healthy environment, we cannot have healthy societies, as we are told. Now, the question is, what's the intersection between peace and the environment? Common literature that we have has this to say, that access to resources such as clean water, food security, and natural resource management can all have major impacts on the stability of societies, that the environment will affect peace. And when these resources are scarce or poorly managed, it can lead to conflict and violence. So once we are not good about environment, and then there will be a negative effect on peace. And conflict and violence, on the other hand, can also have devastating effects on the environment. So here, negative effects of peace could also have the corresponding effects on the environment. So here we see the intersection between the two. Not only one affecting the other, rather one is also affecting the other one in such a vicious cycle. Now, wars and other forms of violence can result in widespread destruction of natural habitats, pollution of water and soil, and depletion of natural resources. What's the offered solution that we usually have, not only in the domestic but also in the international level? Well, with this complex and multifaceted relationship between peace and the environment, here is the gist of our solution, at least as far as my observation is concerned. By working to protect the environment and promote sustainable development, we can help create the conditions for peace to thrive. Meaning, do good as far as the environment is concerned, and then something that is positive we will also see as far as peace is concerned. And by promoting peace and stability, we can create the conditions for sustainable development to take root. In other words, make good something about peace, and then there will be something that we can reap as far as the environment is concerned. As we observe the ecological degradation that we have, as well as the international conflicts that are also connected with the environment, our situation is just like, let's make it slow, dude. But at the end of the day, the problem is that the proverbial boat that we have will eventually sink, God forbid. Or, Band-Aid, the cure to all problems. The question is, why? One possible reason is the fundamental shift in the human nature relationship that occurred during the Enlightenment era. What we mean is that instead of viewing nature as a sacred and harmonious entity, modern society began to see it as a collection of resources to be exploited for human progress and economic gain. The mechanistic paradigm reduced nature to a lifeless machine devoid of intrinsic value and spirituality. And with that, Sayyid Hussein Nasr identified certain key historical factors that shape the mechanistic paradigm and the subsequent ecological crisis that we have. One is scientific materialism. With its reductionist approach, scientific materialism treated nature as a machine governed by fixed laws, devoid of any intrinsic value or spiritual significance. The other one that is identified is the Cartesian dualism. And this one, introduced by René Descartes, furthered the separation between the human mind and the external world, including nature, by extending the notion that humans are separate and superior to the natural world, justifying their exploitation of it. The third factor is the Industrial Revolution. Fueled by the mechanistic worldview, Industrial Revolution accelerated the exploitation of natural resources and contributed to environmental degradation on an unprecedented scale, as we are talking now. And the fourth one is an anthropocentric interpretation of religious teachings, which fostered a human-centered view of creation, thereby reinforcing the idea of humanity's entitlement to subjugate nature for its own ends. Now, with these key historical factors that are identified, there are some metaphysical principles that are offered in order to mend this human nature relationship that we currently have. As essential components of traditional wisdom and spiritual insights, these principles offer an alternative perspective to the modern mechanistic worldview. One of these metaphysical principles is the concept of hierarchy. Traditional societies perceive the natural world as a hierarchical order, whereby everything from the smallest to the largest, from the smallest speck of atom up to the mightiest galaxy in the universe, occupied a specified place in the cosmic order. And this hierarchical view fostered a sense of interconnectedness and interdependence among all elements of creation. And the second principle, the second metaphysical principle, is that of macrocosm and microcosm. That there is a profound correspondence between the larger universe, that is the macrocosm, and the individual human being, the microcosm. That you and I, we are also a reflection of the universe. Corruption of ourselves would be reflected in the universe and vice versa. Each individual is considered a reflection of the broader cosmos with the same underlying principles operating at different scales. And this concept emphasizes the intrinsic connection between humanity and nature, that they are just a reflection of the other. One is the macrocosm and the other is the microcosm. The third metaphysical principle that we can offer is the idea of symbolism and correspondences, which are true in faith traditions as well as spiritual insights of the old. That traditional cultures often attributed symbolic meanings to natural elements, considering them as reflections of higher spiritual realities. And that nature was seen as a book of symbols, through which deeper metaphysical truths could be understood. And the fourth metaphysical principle is the notion of theophany. What do we mean by this? Traditional cultures perceive nature as a sacred revelation of the divine, meaning whatever we see in nature are all manifestations of the attributes of glory and beauty of the Absolute One, where every aspect of creation embodied spiritual truths in them. And this understanding unavoidably encourage reverence and respect for the natural world. The fifth metaphysical principle is the significance of quality over quantity. As we see in the modern worldview, the focus on quantity and material progress has often led to the neglect of qualitative aspects of life and the environment. On the other hand, traditional wisdom highlights the importance of recognizing the qualitative richness and diversity present in nature. And of course, another metaphysical principle is the primacy of the spiritual over the material. Traditional societies place a higher value on spiritual growth and development, considering material aspects as secondary. And this perspective contrasts with the materialistic orientation of modernity, which often prioritizes material accumulation and technological advancements. So, keeping in view these metaphysical principles, we can present some practical solutions informed by traditional wisdom and spiritual insights. One is what we are doing now is ecological consciousness. By embracing the concepts of hierarchy, interconnectedness, symbolism, and theophany, individuals, each of us, you and I, can develop a more profound appreciation for the sacredness of nature and the interconnectedness of all life. Number two, holistic education, as what we are currently doing. A holistic approach to education that not only imparts scientific knowledge, but also incorporates spiritual and ethical teachings can help individuals to develop a more balanced and responsible relationship with the environment. Number three, of course, responsible technology use. Technology can be employed, but in harmony with the principles of hierarchy and qualitative values found in traditional wisdom. Number four is sustainable economics. Sustainability is a key term that we have been using. both in the academic as well as in the practical arenas. The adoption of a more sustainable and equitable economic model that considers the well-being of both humans and nature should be informed by metaphysical principles that value quality of life over sheer material wealth. Number 5 is the revival of traditional arts and crafts, which often incorporate a deep appreciation for nature and its beauty. By reconnecting with traditional artistic expressions, individuals can cultivate a sense of awe and reverence for the natural world, thereby fostering a more sustainable and spiritually enriching culture. And if I may add, promotion of indigenous knowledge systems and practices, what we call as IKSP. As we know, IKSPs have been proven to contribute to the sustainability and productivity of many ecosystems. The rice terraces of the Philippines is a good example. So, in conclusion, let us look at peace, not just the absence of war and conflict. Let us look at peace not just a state of harmony and cooperation between individuals, groups, and nations, meaning peace in relation to fellow human beings only. Instead, we also look at peace, which includes peace with nature, or nature and man, peaceful coexistence. And let us not look at the environment not just a collection of resources to be exploited for human progress and economic gain. The macrocosm is the environment, while each of us is the macrocosm. We reflect the other, and the other is a reflection of us. So with that, I would say thank you and good morning.
Thank you very much, Dr. Limba from Ateneo de Davao University. Indeed, your expertise in the field contributes to our objectives and agenda for this research. Let me just highlight some of the discussion of Dr. Limba. Let me just quote again. Peace is not just the absence of war and conflicts, a state of harmony and cooperation between individuals, groups, and nations. It includes respect for human rights, justice, and equality. Another thing that I would like to highlight, if I may, the notion of unity. Traditional cultures receive nature as a sacred revelation of the divine with respect of creation embodied history. Without basic components, there can be no, as what Dr. Limba said, from the smallest component to the largest, they are all interconnected. Thank you very much for that well-planned and detailed presentation. And directly, let's go straight to the open room. We are open for 2 questions for Dr. Limba, and I believe we can address any of the questions. Now, let me throw in the first question, Dr. Limba, directly call. As we are all aware, Philippines is composed of 7,641 islands with around 175 languages or dialects spoken in the Philippines. And as what we have discussed earlier, that the longest is that we are not on any wars across the world. What do you think is the doings of the government, the people of the nation, in order for us to keep the peace around our country? This is for the future reference of the list, so we are all aware. If we are, what is the reason why interstellar toward other need work?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. As for the premise, the number of islands are indicated. I would add that it depends whether it is low tide or high tide. So we can determine the islands. The other is the number of languages or dialects. Some dialects are considered already languages as far as other standards, international standards are concerned. This archipelagic nature of the Philippines, as well as the multi-language reality that we have, could not necessarily be the cause for any conflict that we have. Whatever conflict that we have is a product of certain historical setting that we have, because there are also archipelagic countries which are comparatively more peaceful than us. There are also very multilingual nations or countries wherein they are more peaceful than us. As for the solution that we have, we cannot just rely on the government for us to live peacefully, for us to live in harmony with mutual respect and tolerance. It's a duty upon our shoulder, not only the government, but also the individuals that we are. Since we are in the academe, we represent a certain epistemic community wherein we could exert very much influence toward what we call as peace education. And when we talk about peace education here, we are talking about something that is a holistic one. Not only peace education that deals with humans, but also peace with nature as we have been in the past.
Thank you so much, Dr. Limba, for that answer. Next question is from Celeste Delay, one of the top members of NCP. Which do you believe is more crucial to the advancement of the economy, the anthropocentric or the deep ecology perspective?
As we can observe in the presentation that we have, we opt for something that is balanced. Let us take advantage of nature, not just for the human being, but also for sustainability, meaning that for nature to remain as such for a long time. Let us treat nature as a wife or as a spouse rather than a prostitute. So we opt for the balance.
I like the humor. Let's treat our environment as our partners in life, not just a second priority, but really priority in our life. Thank you, Dr. Limba. What's really deep in I really like how you expound all the factors in order for us to do the things in environment. Thank you very much. Now, you will be awarded a certificate of appreciation to Dr. Mansoor Limba, and allow me to once again read my question.
I thank you all those who asked questions. Thank you.